Oh, hello, good evening, welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from news about Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I'm Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, a dramatic twist unfolds in the high-profile case against former National Signals Bureau boss Kwabena Eduboaheng and 3 others as the accused Mildred Donko unexpectedly turns prosecution witness. What does all of this mean? Stay with us. We have a conversation. Former New Patriotic Party stalwart Alan Kojo Chamantin officially unveils his new political party, the Unity Party, that's UP, following his breakaway ahead of the 2024 elections. Could this mark the emergence of a viable third force in Ghanaian politics? That's a question. Tonight, government extends free senior high school policy to private schools as Education Minister announces government stipend package for 25,000 students placed so far. We'll look at the package closely. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Connect with us. Let's hear your voice and let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
Government will not cover tuition fees for at least 25,000 students who are now enrolled in private senior high schools through the computerized school placement system. Instead, government will pay an annual stipend of 940 cedis for each student. Minister of Education Haruna Idrisu announced this during the signing of Memorandum of Understanding with leadership of the private schools in Accra.
Government have been able to place at least 25,000 to the private schools. Otherwise, that 25,000 would have been without schools, and that could define a terminal end to the career of many young people, students. So government is committing to provide a stipend of at least 250 Ghana cedis to support the transition of that category of students moving into private schools. That's negotiable. We'll still discuss as and when we can help you to up it. We'll be able to do so.
The Vice President, Professor Nana Jenopoku-Agyemang, has charged leaders to invest in women entrepreneurs to drive Africa's economic growth. Speaking at the 27th Zonta District 18 Conference in Accra, the Vice President said as part of government's commitment to gender equality, has expanded access to education and supported women in leadership.
We have expanded access to education, supported women in leadership, and strengthened protections against gender-based violence. But laws and policies must be complemented by partnerships with people and organizations, including yours, in order for real transformation to take place in our communities.
After breaking away from the NPP in 2023 and launching the Movement for Change soon after, the Movement for Change has officially transitioned into a fully fledged political party named the United Party. This new twist to Alan Chamantin's political journey is aimed at breaking the duopoly of the ruling NDC and opposition NPP. Founder of the United Party, Alan Chamantin says the United Party will create sustainable economic development for the country in all sectors.
The vision of the United Party is to make Ghana the economic powerhouse of Africa by 2040. We want particularly the youth and the women and the vulnerable of our society.
Ghana's economy grew by 4.5% year-on-year in July 2025, according to the inaugural release of the monthly indicator of economic growth by the Ghana Statistical Service. The new index, designed to provide a more frequent snapshot of economic activity, rose from 105.4 in July 2024 to 110.2 in July 2025. Dr. Alhassan Idrisu is the government statistician.
The agriculture sector grew by 8%. The industry sector grew by 0.1%. And services expanded by 6.4%. So overall, while growth has softened compared to last year, the economy continues to show resilience and diversification, with key sectors maintaining forward momentum even in the period of economic adjustment.
A brewing family feud over who is the legal wife of late high life legend Daddy Lumba has spilled into the courtroom, casting a shadow over his planned funeral. But the Kumasi High Court judge is now urging the families to amicably settle out of court before the next hearing. The musician's first wife, Akosia Sewa, sued to be declared his only surviving spouse and the sole person entitled to perform the sacred widowhood rites at his funeral. Her lawyer, William Kusi, spoke to the press.
You know the posture of the head of family from the beginning. That is the cause of the problem. If letters are written to you denying of your right as a wife, I'm sure that you can't just sleep and let it pass by. I have the sister of Lumba here, and she represented Akosua Sewa in court today. And this demonstrates the kind of love the family has for Akosua Sewa. You get the point. We are committed to protecting the integrity of Lumba. And we are ready to work within time to ensure that on the day that has been set, the funeral will come on.
There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7. Also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. And as always, probably brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, Sasso Insecticide Spray and Corcom Tum Tum Precom. We're live as well on 3 News on YouTube. Coming up next here on Ghana Tonight. Twists and turns as we're seeing in the National Signal Bureau scandal. Mildred Donko flips, now testifying against her co-accused. That is the latest development right now. A very interesting one indeed, and we've got some exclusive detail on this matter here on Ghana Tonight and this latest development, because the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Akritingha-Yene, has withdrawn the charges against Mildred Donko, one of the accused persons in the ongoing case, which involves the former Director General of the National Signals Bureau, Kwabena Duboahing. Now, my colleague Dennis Poperi-Wadam is going to be walking us through, in fact, recalling exactly how things have played out regarding this name, Mildred Donko, and the current state of affairs now that she has agreed to serve as a prosecution witness. Very interesting development there. Dennis Poperi-Wadam Esquire is with me. He's been studying some documents that we've secured exclusively here on Ghana Tonight. Dennis Poperi-Wadam, it's good to have you, as always.
Alfred.
Mr. Esquire, let's get into the documents as you have it. But first off, let's start for the uninitiated. Who is Mildred Donko, and how has this case indeed proceeded over the period?
Well, so Mildred Donko is one of the accused persons in the ongoing trial of the former National Signals Bureau Director General and 4 others. So he's one of the 4. On the charge sheet, she's labeled as the third accused person. The first accused person being Kwabena Duboahen, the former National Signals Bureau boss. His wife, who is the second accused person. Mildred, a former banker. We understand she resigned from the bank to join one of the companies that was established by the first and the second accused persons as part of the facts presented by prosecution. And then the last person on that charge sheet is Advantage Solutions, which is one of the entities that was set up by the first and second accused persons. So Mildred Donko, in essence, is one of the persons that the Attorney General is after in respect of this particular matter. She is named as the third accused person.
This National Signals Bureau scandal?
Yes.
I see.
And you do recall that when we segregated the charges as to what was labeled against who, we found out that 8 of the charges were against Kwabena Duboahen himself in respect of money laundering, using public funds for profit, obtaining public property by false statements, and all. But the emphasis tonight is for us to look at what charges were specifically labeled against Mildred, because it's a subject matter for tonight, and she happens to be so Mildred is the third accused person. So here you see that 2 counts or 2 charges were specifically against her in respect of money laundering and 1 conspiracy to commit money laundering. So what we are learning now is the fact that the Attorney General has taken a move to drop these charges against Mildred Donko. In exchange for that, Mildred Donko is now going to be a prosecution witness. What it means in essence is that she will be testifying for the states. And what that also means is that she now gets to testify against persons who were her co-accused. So that's the latest development we're getting now.
I see.
And this is the notice of withdrawal from the Attorney General's office, indicating, as would have it, take notice.
We've got exclusive detail of this detail.
That the Honorable Attorney General has, pursuant to Section 59 of the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act 1960, Act 30, we'll look at what's contained in Section 59 of Act 30, that withdrawn Mildred Donko, the third accused person herein, from prosecution in respect of all the charges brought against her in this case. So this is the notice. Hopefully tomorrow, this will be moved and properly be dealt with. She will be taken out, and then the next processes will be on the docket of the courts. What this also means is that, together with this, is her witness statement. Now a witness for prosecution. Remember, we have also looked in other episodes the kind of witnesses the prosecution intends to put before the court. In fact, those witness statements have already been filed.
True.
So this will also go on to add into that, including a driver who was said to have been facilitating the movement of money from the first accused person to Mildred, who is said to be a banker at the time. So that is exactly what is happening now.
You know, it's an interesting development because of how the context that you put it. The fact that now this third accused is now going to serve as a witness for the prosecution, in this case, the Attorney General, against these persons that she was earlier standing trial with. And that effectively leads to the charges against her being dropped. So so her plate has been wiped clean.
Yes.
To the extent that she's agreed to serve as
a prosecution
witness.
But let's look at what is provided for under Section 59 of the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act, as stated in that notice by the Attorney General. It talks about withdrawal from prosecution and preliminary investigations. So when you look at 59(1), it says that in a trial or preliminary proceedings before a district court, a prosecutor, with the consent of the court or on the instructions of the Attorney General, at any time before judgment is pronounced or an order of committal is made, may withdraw from the prosecution of a person, generally or in respect of any one or more offenses with which that person is charged. The withdrawal could either be in generic terms or generally, or in respect of any or more offenses. What it means is that it could actually have been a withdrawal of just one charge.
Right.
But in this case, we see from the notice the Attorney General saying that all charges preferred against Mildred Donko
have been withdrawn.
So that is generally. Now, when you look at it, it proceeds to say that's from 4. Those are the relevant portions. And indeed, sections 2 and 3 of this particular, the subsections 2 and 3 of section 59 have been repealed. So that's how come you don't see those there. But section 4 says that a discharge of an accused under this section shall not operate as a bar to subsequent proceedings against the accused on account of the same facts. It means the window is not shut when we come under this particular provision.
Interesting.
Now, this is instructive because when I started off, I made reference to a district court.
Sure.
People may be asking if we are dealing with a district court. Subsection 5 answers that question. That the provisions of the proceedings, the provisions of the preceding subsections shall apply mutandis mutandis. That means with the necessary modifications to summary trials before the High Court or a circuit court. So that answers the question of whether this applies to the High Court where this trial is ongoing, since the provision speaks about a district court. So this is the provision under which the Attorney General comes to have Mildred now testify against the co-accused and also get the charges against her dropped in respect of this particular matter. So that's where we find ourselves today. But Alfred, if you remember, the last issue that happened, or the last major thing that happened in courts, was to the effect that counsel for the first and second accused persons, mind you, Mildred was also part of the 3, or the accused persons that was represented by the learned Samuel Atachia. Right. Along the line, she disengaged his service.
Sure.
So what it means is that she still does not have a lawyer on record when it comes to proceedings before the court. But the development before the court was to the effect that they had filed for a discovery of some documents because they wanted the Attorney General to disclose some documents. They were talking about some national security documents that go as far back as 1992. Exactly. You recall the High Court dismissed that. They went on appeal. So they were before the High Court to move an application for a stay of proceedings while they pursue that appeal. So on the last agenda date, the court was supposed to have made a ruling on that, but they had to adjourn because of some developments. So the expectation is that when the court sits tomorrow, it will look at those matters, including this particular new development which has just come up. So that's just by essence of bringing up to speed what has been happening in respect of that matter. But the latest now being Mildred now becoming a prosecution witness rather than an accused person as she previously was.
Some very important and excellent detail there, Dennis Barrow. Please stay with me because there's a point that you make about the specific provision that the Attorney General comes under and the fact that there would have actually been an option of dropping just one of the 2 charges. The Attorney General has gone in for the full package of dropping both charges against Mildred. We'll explore that in a bit. Martin People is private legal practitioner. He's joining us on Zoom right now on this issue. Counsel, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Ocansey. Good.
Now, looking at the clear detail of the provision and the context that Dennis has laid, solid one for this conversation tonight, how does this latest development in this case strike you? Now that the Attorney General has dropped all charges against Mildred Donko, the third accused, in this National Signals Bureau scandal because she has now agreed to serve as a prosecution witness to testify against the other accused persons. How does this strike you?
Well, how it strikes me is that the noose is tightening around the neck of Edubuahin and his wife. Yes, the noose is tightening around them. And of course, we all reckon that they are not guilty yet. Article 19, Clause 2 says the person is innocent until proven guilty, okay? But with Mildred jumping ship It means that now Eduboahin and his wife are effectively like Bonnie and Clyde. You know Bonnie and Clyde in U.S. history, you find a couple who used to be involved in conflict with the law. Okay, so if the state wins the case against Edubois and his wife, they will be Ghana's Bonnie and Clyde. Yeah, you know, if you, for those who don't know, you would see Jay-Z has a song, Bonnie and Clyde. Yeah, that's for those who follow Jay-Z, the US rapper. So basically, it tells you that the noose is tightening. Yes, because for somebody who was intimately involved in the transactions to offer to testify for the prosecution, that's it. Except also, I mean, because we are discussing law, let's also bring the other side of the coin, which is that usually for lawyers, it's not mandatory in all cases. There's this old evidence teacher, you hear Jekedako. Those days, he would say that if you want to use somebody like this as an accomplice, he should first be tried and then he should plead guilty. So there used to be that practice. And that practice, you will find it in the case of State versus Archery, where, I mean, decades ago, it used to be fashionable that the accomplice should first plead guilty or be found guilty, and then he'll be used against the other accused persons. But it looks like now we are no longer insisting on that. So Mildred Donko can be let go of, and then she can come and testify against Eduboahin and his wife.
I see. And you see, as Dennis captured earlier, the Attorney General had the option of dropping one of two charges. It's gone in for the full package, dropped all two charges against Mildred Donko, as she has now agreed to serve as prosecution witness. That's the decision to, as it were, go in for the full package of dropping all charges. Is it conterminous with the weight of the prosecution witness as Mildred is now and what she is really bringing onto the table?
Presumably, because you and I don't have visibility on the evidence to be presented. So once the prosecutor, that's the Attorney General and his deputy, have chosen to do this, then we can only presume that it is worth it. And of course, you know, they know the stakes are very high, that Ghanaians are generally following this with keen eyes and hoping to get conviction, okay? I mean, and so for the Attorney General to take such a step, it tells you that it must be worth the while of the Attorney General. Yeah, let's not forget, the Attorney General is also in the business of making sure that he meets our expectations. You remember, he said that the first press conference was what? Trailer in Manila.
Yes.
Then the next one would be what?
Rumble in the jungle.
So Dr. Dominica Ayiri knows how to, you know, carry the citizens along. So it's not lost on him at all that if it turned out that the weight of the evidence is underwhelming, citizens will come for him. So I'm sure it is not lost on him at all that this decision to withdraw better be worth it. Otherwise, the backlash would cause irreparable damage. So on the basis of that, you know, generally, because Ayene has been a distinguished teacher over the decades, I mean, people who sat in his class, including myself, all would acknowledge that Ayene was always very clear-headed, okay, brilliant lawyer, right, at least as an academic, and so haven't come into prosecution. And of course, he's a practitioner as well, but, you know, I'm emphasizing his academic prowess. That there was always that clarity of thought in his arguments and his teachings and everything. So the main point I'm making is that he knows very well that to decide to discontinue, yeah, let me use a different word, against Mildred Donko what Mildred Donko is bringing to the table must be worth it. Otherwise, citizens would come for him. That's Dr. Ayine. And so I believe he would have struck the balance well.
And I do agree with you on this. Well, thank you, Council. Thank you so much for spending some time with us on this matter. The coming days is one to watch. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Martin Kpebu is private legal practitioner there. And Dennis, he makes a point about this decision that the Attorney General is taking and the path that the Attorney General is taking, that in the view of Martin Kpebu, it must be worth that decision to drop all 2 charges because he's going for the full package because he had options under this provision.
Yes, he does. But he has chosen clearly what he thinks is the best for him. But Alfred, let's also mention that we are picking information as to the kind of testimony that Mildred will be giving in respect of this matter. She'll be testifying along the lines of how she met the other accused persons, i.e., accused person number 1 and 2, Kobna Edu Buahin and the wife. She'll also be testifying in respect of the role she played when she was at the bank and how she was receiving monies. She also testified on how she left the bank and the circumstances under which she left the bank and was offered an opportunity to work for the first and second accused persons. And working for the first and second accused persons, she was engaged, or the fourth accused person was the company that she was working at.
Yeah.
She also indicates how she was involved in the setting up of another company and even how much she was paid and all that. So all that is expected to, and she'll be putting in evidence email correspondence, pay slips, employment letters, and all of that. So clearly, it speaks to how the Attorney General is convinced that using that person will inure to the benefit of prosecution in this particular matter. So clearly, we look forward to see how the coming days will look like in this particular matter. Hopefully, we're in court tomorrow. We'll keep tabs on proceedings and we'll bring the latest to viewers on this particular matter, Alfred.
And it's important. And let's recall these persons that you talk about, these accused persons, and how things are going to play out in court tomorrow, and the charges that all these accused persons will have to answer to, especially because of this latest development as we're having it now, Dennis, with respect to these charges. Let's recall that quickly, and then we're going to close chapter on this particular issue. But
well,
this is
so in respect to the first accused person, who is the person of Kobna Edu Buahin, he's been charged with 3 counts of stealing, 1 count of conspiracy to steal, another count of defrauding by false pretense, a count of willful causing financial loss to the state, a count of using public office for profit, also 1 on obtaining public property by false statements, another on money laundering, and 1 on conspiracy to commit money laundering. In respect of the second accused person, who is in the person of Angela Eje Boateng, she is charged with conspiracy to steal, a count of money laundering, another on collaboration to commit a crime, to wit, using public office for profit, then 1 on conspiracy to commit money laundering. Then the third accused person, these charges have been dropped against her, so it's safe for us to move to the last person, who is an artificial person, a count of money laundering, and also another on conspiracy to commit money laundering. So these are the charges that have been leveled against now 3 accused persons. And moving forward, the trial will be against these persons. So this is just by way of recap.
There was a question as to whether Mildred Donko can be described as a star witness in this case.
Star witness, that is for prosecution itself to decide who their star witness would be. But of course, it's a material witness at this particular point.
I do appreciate you for this. Dennis Poirier, Wadam Esquire, thank you. And I know as an officer of the court, tomorrow you will be in court.
Yes, we'll monitor all the proceedings.
Monitor all of this. And so make a date tomorrow on Ghana Tonight. This is the place to be on any latest update on this case. But this is one that we're keeping an eye on and how things are playing out. But coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, Alan Kojo Chamanting launches the United Party. This is Ghana's political landscape new baby. It's about to, was it really a third force that we have been talking about? Will this UP provide that kind of third force that many have been talking about. It's a conversation we're having right now. After breaking away from the New Patriotic Party in 2023 and launching the Movement for Change soon after, the Movement for Change has officially transitioned into a fully fledged political party. They go under the umbrella United Party, UP. Now, this new twist to Alan Kyerematen's political journey is aimed at breaking the duopoly of MPP and NDC. That's his main aim. He wants to break that duopoly. That's the man, it's been on this path right from 2023 ahead of the 2024 elections. There were many who pointed to the fortunes of the NPP that dipped in the Ashanti region to this Movement for Change by Alan Kyerematen, now that's been transformed into a full-fledged political party, United Party. But let's take a listen to Alan Kyerematen earlier today during the launch, and then also Boniface Abubakar Sadiq, a stalwart within the politics of Ghana, former member of parliament on the ticket of the NPP, a former minister. But this is what Alan Kyerematen said earlier today during the launch of this party. Take a look.
The vision of the United Party is to make Ghana the economic powerhouse of Africa by 2040. We want particularly the youth and the women and the vulnerable of our society. The vision of the United Party is to make Ghana the economic powerhouse of Africa by 2040. We want particularly the youth and the women and the vulnerable of our society.
To be very objective, I would say that they are making an effort. They are trying. It is clear that there's the political will to get things done. But unfortunately, they have not been able to articulate a comprehensive and I would say
strategy,
results-oriented strategy and policy framework. The things that they are doing are not entirely consistent. And for me, I feel that they should look at my 10-point plan and agenda to stop galamsey. And I've talked about this. I've put this out in the media as part of
That's former Trade Minister Alan Kyerematen now testing his mettle to lead this party as its flag bearer going into the 2028 elections. Does this really spell that direct and closed door is shut to any possible return to the New Patriotic Party? Now he leads this United Party, UP, and that in itself, this tells a story that what we're going to post to you right now, even if this initials of the party is a direct connection and reflection to the initials of the NPP's foundation, is this United Party going to make a difference for Alan Kyerematen's fortunes as a politician? When we go down memory lane, breakaway parties don't have a good story in our political history as a country. And this is it. It summarizes it all. None of them, so most of them get less than 1% in presidential elections. In 2024, we saw that's Hassan Ayarga, less than 1%, in fact, 0.16%, and others who followed in that same path. None of them have been able to win a seat in parliament in all the elections that they have contested. They really haven't changed election outcomes. So you could say, and safely say, they've been insignificant in terms of influencing election outcomes or turning the pendulum in either side, that's or MPP or NDC. But that's the objective of Alan Kyerematen. He says he wants to break the duopoly. How's that going to be possible? Taking into consideration this history, this brief one that I've just given to you. But it also brings us to how the picture has been since 1992, at least in the Fourth Republic, the breakaways that we've had. Put it on the screen right now. Gosi Tano, the National Reform Party, contested the 2000 elections on a very good showing. And then also we have Dr. Reko Brobe as well, left the NPP, and then he formed the UGM. Dr. Obed Asamoah broke away from the NDC, formed the DFP. Dr. Papa Kusindum left the CPP, formed the Progressive People's Party. Hassan Ayariga left the PNC ahead of the 2016 elections after he failed that flag bearership bid and formed the All People's Congress, APC. They're not alone in this in terms of the history of breakaways. Apart from, we have also the NDP, the National Democratic Party, by Nana Konadu Agyeman Rawlings, the wife of the founder of the NDC, the late Jerry John Rawlings, and then also many others that we would ascribe to what Dr. Papa Kusindum did. In fact, at some point, there was a talk of whether that's Dr. Papa Kusindum, was growing into that kind of third force that we needed in our political landscape. But we've seen the PPP's strength, metal and influence fizzle out in our political history over the period. In fact, they did not even have space on the ballot paper for the 2024 elections. The Electoral Commission disqualified them. They had reasons to contest this in court, but unfortunately, that was never going to restore their fortunes going into the 2024 elections. Professor Samuel Edujemfi is a political historian. He's joining us on Zoom right now. He's a senior lecturer, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. We also have an executive member, a national executive member of the newly formed United Party joining us in a bit. But Prof, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First of all, I want to find out from you what this particular development, considering the poor showing of breakaway parties, as I have just showed, at least in the Fourth Republic in this country, will this United Party make any difference, taking into consideration what we have seen since 1992?
It's an interesting question, my brother. Where we sit now, we understand that there's a question about seeking for a third force. We are yet to have that third force emerge. But anecdotally, we also know that when Alan Kuduche-Martin formed his movement for change, the political questions that came up within the period under review was whether there is going to be an emerging third force. But anecdotally, we know that that movement Alan Kuduche-Martin formed, affectionately known as the Alfranto movement, was a movement that took away something from the NPP. It did not necessarily marshal the necessary forces to be able to win elections. It rather served as a base or a conduit through which disgruntled MPP members could exhibit their protest against the MPP. And like I said earlier, anecdotally, I think that it accounted for the, if you like, the massive loss of the MPP. It formed part of the major puzzlement that the MPP itself is trying to unravel. But it's right to think that historically, these smaller parties have not been able to win political power. The UP itself, in its old form, came about as a result of the existing legal instrument or legislation that barred ethnic-centric, religious-centered fraternities or groups, which allowed for the Northern People's Party, allowed for the NLM, and other parties in the Greater Accra region and elsewhere to begin to come together, right, to form what will be known largely as the United Party, right? So an amalgam of the Northern People's Party, Muslim Association Party, National Liberation Movement, and Low Youth Organization Togoland Congress under Shifi Mope. These parties came together because there was existing national legal instrument that barred such, if you like, ethnic nationalism, religious, if you like, formations or groups that rather push for national politics, to rather seek for a more inclusive or those parties that were national in character. That around this time, there will be a certain zest or push or a certain turnaround or a certain eventuality or event that will, if you like, serve as a pivot or a fulcrum around which this UP, this new United Party, can rather bring other political parties together. So in my mind, in trying to contemplate and reflect on what Mr. Alan Kojo Martin seeks to do, I believe that he's seeking to call all other forces, except for the MPP and the NDC, to come together under this united party, as it was seen of old, to be able to serve as a united front that may potentially or possibly serve as a third force that can win political power. But in my mind, I think that this united party may still take something away from the MPP, unless the MPP, by the close of January, is able to come up with a leader who would have a certain telepathy with the founder and the leader of this new UP. And that in itself may have the tendency or the proclivity to bring them together in a certain new birth alliance that will give birth to victory for the NPP family. That was a transmogrification of the UP in the historical sense.
I see.
So I am of the view that this new movement, a new political party, is going to trigger several conversations, and many may perceive that if it has the potential or the capacity to revive the old UP in the sense of uniting pockets of smaller parties or disgruntled members of the bigger parties to come together to serve as a third force.
I thank you, Prof. Thank you so much for this. Danaya Osapong is a national executive member of the newly formed United Party. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Danaya, if you could put your video on for me, but first off, in a quick one, there is that doubt of whether or not you would form that kind of third force that the political landscape needs right now. And if so, are you going to be able to do that without the help of the other smaller parties? Nana.
Alfred, I lost you at a point. Are you able to repeat the question, please?
I was asking if you clearly you listen to Prof. There's that doubt of whether you can form the third force on your own without necessarily getting the strength and the amalgamation with the other smaller political parties. What path are you taking to achieve this third force that you say you want to break the duopoly of NPP and NDC? Right, quick one.
Thank you very much, Alfred. I think that we are a very open political party, and as the interim leadership had already stated, Alfred, we are open. We went into election 2024 calling on all smaller political parties to join us, and the proposals kept coming. Now we have formed what we call the United Party. Our gates are still opened, and I think that we have presented Ghanaians a leadership. What is lacking in this country is leadership. We are presenting to Ghanaians a leadership of integrity and ethics. We are presenting to Ghanaians a leadership of discipline. We are presenting to Ghanaians a leadership that is available and ready to enforce law and order. We are presenting to Ghanaians a leadership that is tolerant. And with these core values, that I think that we are being attractive, and we are attracting all these smaller political parties, and they are going to join us. You watch the space.
We'll see how the coming days will look like on this. And Sapon, thank you very much for joining us in this National Executive Member of the newly formed United Party. Also, Professor Samuel Edujemfi, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. We're back shortly after this quick break. The free senior high school, the private senior high schools is one to watch out for after this quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Government will not cover tuition fees for at least 25,000 students who are now enrolled in private senior high schools through the computerized school placement system. Instead, government will pay an annual stipend of what we have now been told by the minister. We're going to hear from him shortly. Haruna Idrisu announced some detail of this entire package and how much it's going to cost government during this signing of memorandum of understanding with the leadership of the private schools in Accra. Take a look.
Declared by you of the 70 schools that are benefiting from this pilot stands at 70 at 44,000. Government have been able to place at least 25,000 to the private schools. Otherwise, that 25,000 would have been without schools, and that could define a terminal end to the career of many young people, students. So government is committing to provide a stipend of at least 250 Ghana cedis to support the transition of that category of students moving into private schools. That's negotiable. We'll still discuss as and when we can help you to up it. We'll be able to do so. Ministry of Education shall not pay tuition fees. That's part of the understanding. I should thank you for that general support to government. Ordinarily, you would have insisted rightly and justifiably that government should pay for tuition. So momentarily, you are not for profit, but for the provision of the public good.
That's how I do so then. I.K. Mensah is the president of the Conference of Heads of Private Secondary, Second Cycle Schools. He's joining us right now. Mr. Mensah, good evening. Hello?
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Peter Pati-Anti, Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies, also joining us on Zoom. Dr. Anti, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Alfred.
Mr. Mensah, so I hear the minister talk about these 25,000 students that have been now sent to these senior high schools under the free senior high school program, private senior high schools. Government will provide a stipend of 250 cedis each, negotiable, possibly higher. What did you walk away from the table with? Is it 250 or something more than that?
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. In fact, in the first place, we have to be appreciative of the government that the journey that started as far back as 2017 has now come to see the light of day. In fact, we are so grateful for the government, the Honorable Minister, the Director General DES, the PSC Secretary. In fact, that was what the minister said. And if you heard him rightly, he said that was an amount for the transition.
Right.
Amount for the transition of the students that are going to be placed in our schools.
Okay.
In fact, that is just a highlight of what the minister had for us. But in the package are so many things that were not laid out over there. We finally left the table comfortable for now, but subject to improvement, as you said, because this is just a pilot program.
I see. We're hearing some 994 Ghana cedis. Where is that coming from?
Absolutely. You know, the 994 is an annual provisional fee that the government would advance for every private school that would be placed SHS student, meaning that each student that is sent to our school, government is going to give us an annual stipend of 994 Ghana cedis. That is what we signed for. And apart from that, there are many things that are also in there for us, the private schools, if we do well with the policies that has been advantage to us.
I see. So how different is this from the 250? Is it 250 per term, and that makes up the total of the 900 annually?
Yeah, that is a recurring expenditure that is given to us by the transition.
Okay.
But if all things put together, just as I've said, what we signed for, we signed for 994 cities. So that 250 was just a mention of a transitional amount that is going to cushion us beyond this procreative stage of, this is a novelty. This is the first time we are doing that. So
right.
The 250 is an amount, a seed money that we're going to start with it.
Okay.
But at the end of the semester, 2 semesters, that is annually, we won't be paid 994 cities.
Certainly. Dr. Ante, does this bring some clarity to the issues at play, especially because, as I indicated, yes, this is the first time they appreciate this intervention, but then again, they're expecting some progression. Does this bring some clarity?
Yeah, sure. I think that we need to commend the Ministry of Education for this fulfilling this promise. I think it's something that the NDC put out that they will do. And for me, when a political party makes a promise and they are fulfilling it, we need to commend them. That is what politics is about. I also believe that this is good news for the private schools, and that is why my brother on the other line is acknowledging the impact of this on their system, because most of these private schools were virtually collapsing. Some had collapsed. And with the injection of 25,000 students into these schools, we are going to see some vibrancy in there. My only challenge is that he keeps saying there are a lot of things in there for them. I don't have a problem with that. My problem will be, how are parents going to be educated as to what they need to do as their awards are coming to these schools? Because as you are aware, aside the prospectus that these schools give to the parents, there are other things that they might have to take care of. And I think that for transparency's sake, the Private Schools Association, the secondary senior high schools, should let us know the uniformity of the commitment of parents as they are being as the awards are being sent to these schools. Because for those going to the public schools, we know that you get your prospectus and that is all that there is. You don't have to pay any other thing. Now, government is taking, the government is giving them this amount of money, but what are the commitments that parents are supposed to do? Are parents supposed to pay anything extra aside the prospectus so that we know how we go about with this discussion? So whatever it is in for them, we don't want to know, but what will be the commitment of parents as the awards are being, as they prepare to bring the awards to the school, and how uniform are these commitments? We need to get that clarity so that no other school would try to exploit any parent in this manner. And it's also good for them, because when they succeed as a pilot project, other schools will be brought in. So at this stage, we need to understand all the modalities so that we help shape and propagate this particular aspect of the free senior high school that the ministry is implementing. And then in the next year, we will see more students selecting these schools and being placed in those schools. So my problem will be, we need clarity on the commitment parents are supposed to make aside the prospectus, so that and how uniform are these commitments as we go into school reopening come October 18th.
Perfect point. Dr. Ante, appreciate you for this. And the next phase of this conversation in the coming days will be the cost and where the funding is coming from and how sustainable the source of funding will be for this new intervention that government is providing for the private schools as well. Because if the 994 CDs Mr. Ike Mensah is talking about per annum for the 25,000 students, anything to go by, we're talking about almost 25 million CDs every year for the private schools under the Free Senior High School project. That's the next phase of the conversation. Dr. Ante, thank you. Dr. Peter Ante is the Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies. IK Mensa is the President of the Conference of Heads of Private Second Cycle Schools. Thank you, gentlemen. And I want to say thank you for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. I'm Alfred Ocansey. Join the New Day team tomorrow morning. Alan Kojo Chemanting sits with Roland Walker in an exclusive interview tomorrow. And then also Joseph Akable, Esquire, will be sitting with a guest for The Big Issue. And also Johnny Hughes with Helena Piampofo. Mawana Egbeta will be on 3FM 92.7. I'm Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint, superior durability.